At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Observations TFR 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome to another great episode of hashtag TFR. All right. What's today? It's Tasty Tuesday. What's the topic? What? An avocado? That's right. We have an avocado recipe that you won't believe. It put some meat on your bones. Can you believe that? Well, we're going to be talking about that today. But what else in the topic is there, right? Where are the revolutionary, spirited American blacks today? What do you teach your children because you live in an all-white neighborhood? It won't be because you moved in. The phone lines are open, 213-943-3358, right? I was invited to watch a documentary, Mr. Soul, with a Q&A after the watch, just this past evening. I found the Q&A was based in Seattle, Washington, and the moderators were an older white couple where it was advertised more as the poets and singer, all who came on after the documentary to perform were the mods. You see, Soul, which the doc is about, was a program which began in 1969, ran through the early 70s on NYC, NET, and PBS outlet. Ellis Haizlip was its host and founder. Funded partly by Ford Foundation, abruptly the funding ended. The funding stopped. One of the poets said, honestly, she doesn't see racism in Seattle. Let's talk how racism can be invisible, how bigotry can be invisible, right? Let's talk about that real quick. Look, they were talking about a program, right? They were talking about a program called Soul, right? It's about and they were talking about the documentary Mr. Soul, right? Talking about the creator and host Ellis Haizlip, right? And the way that it was structured, it would appear that the two poets, one poet, and you know, it's funny, Tanya, because the one poet who got up and spoke, he said American Black. And I said, oh, he's a watcher. Okay. So he said American Black. I said, oh, he's a watcher. He said it in his poetry. I said, oh, okay. So he did his, and I said, oh, yeah, I thought he was pretty good. I said, yeah. And then then they came with a singer, and she sung Somewhere Over the Rainbow. And then the next poet came in. She was like the moderator of that part of the program. And then the woman came back and she sung the Negro National Anthem, Let Every Voice and Sing, you know, kind of like the plan that Biden had. But anyway. So then we had to flip over to a whole nother platform. So when I came into the platform, I saw across the top as I popped in. Of course, you know, I had this logo in the back, you know, so they could know what was going on. But across the top was nothing but a sea of Caucasians, and there were it was a older couple that really turned out to be the host, right? And it was coming from Seattle, and then the people were coming in, but the way it was billed, it made it seem like these three people who had been on the previous platform were going to be the moderators, but this was not the case. The questions were controlled by the two Caucasians. Now, the one poet said that she didn't see racism. She really can honestly say that she doesn't see any racism in Seattle. Okay. Let's break down how you can see invisible bigotry if you are actually looking for invisible bigotry. Then you can find invisible bigotry if you are really looking for it. Okay. The first thing was, I asked the question. I said, basically, how come we're on? Because, he also said this, Tanya. He said in his poem, he said, we're on the hamster wheel. I said, oh, he is really listening to us, because American Black and hamster wheel, and even the woman said, the one poet said hamster wheel, and what she said, I said, oh, they've been definitely watching in Seattle. Seattle, we must have a base. We have a base. So I'm sitting there and I'm listening, and then the people were the older couple. They were supposed to be a liberal older couple. They understood what Ellis Haizlip was doing with the show, and it was right, because he had people who came on the show that kicked it. He had the Last Poets, he had Nikki Giovanni, he had the thought trendsetters of the day from 1969 to 1973 when the funding was pulled, right? So they seemed like they were liberal. So I came up with a question because, So I said, how come it appears that we have to keep going through talking about the same things? I'm going to paraphrase now. And we're talking about the same things that Oscar Michaud was talking about back in 1920. Now, the poets perked up, right? The singer hadn't got on the line. She was having trouble getting into the other platform for some reason. But the poets perked up and they started talking. So I came with another question, right? Which was even more concise than the last. So I said, being that they were asking the questions, but they asked the questions because the first question was a two-part question, and they were able to answer it, right? So the second question, I said, how come American blacks find it hard to do what is necessary to be, all capital letters, free? Free. We hear it in the poetry, we hear it in the music, but when it comes time for it to be delivered upon, American blacks seem to pull back like Ellis Haizlip did concerning the show, right? And so that question was looming, but there were other questions happening, right? And so they got to a point where the poets, to tell the truth, the poet and the singer, they were talking kumbaya. They were talking about get along, because at that point she had said she had never seen racism. She can actually say that she doesn't see racism in Seattle. And first of all, it's a black event during Black History Month, and if you have the overseers monitoring, they're overseers and they're monitoring the questions that are being read out. I knew I got the first one off, but I knew the second one was going to be a stretch because, you know, Caucasians are okay to a certain point, but when you start talking about, well, there has, good morning, Stu, I see that you're watching. When you say that there has to be a reallocation of the funds, like it was a reallocation of the funds that Martin Luther King talks about every morning that we get started on this program, that took the money away from American blacks, that there has to be a allocation of funds back to American blacks. Well, all those people who are talking about everyone should get the same amount, if everyone gets the same amount of money, now ADOS talks about this, other people like Tariq Nasheed talks about this. If the allocation of funds, if it's allocated equally, then there will still be a disparity between American blacks and everyone else, because everyone else is been put above on the totem pole above us. So putting out money equally and not equitably means that we will constantly be at the bottom, because they purposely went out to make and strip us of everything that would have us have wealth in this society. So she said, honestly, she could not see racism.
You're going out. Your volume is going out. Your sound is going completely out.
Huh.
It's going in and out.
It's going in and out. Okay, can you hear me now? Because I'm not.
Yes, flipping. I can hear you, but one whole paragraph, they cut you out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you see, if you do not allocate funds in an equitable way, black people will never get to the same standing as those that they allocated funds to unjustly in the early years, in the early 1800s. This is very important. So when you see them talking about college forgiveness, right? They're going to forgive the college loans. If they don't forgive more of the college loans for American blacks, that still keeps American blacks at the bottom of the totem pole. Now, she said that in Seattle, she honestly could not see racism in Seattle. Well, let me show you invisible bigotry. Invisible bigotry is having a Black History Month event, and those who happen to be the benefactors happen to be Caucasian, so they are in control of the event and in control of the questions. That is, unfortunately, people, racism. It's covered up well under quote unquote being a liberal, but that is invisible bigotry, right? Now the question that came, and so I'm going to go over the question again because I don't know what went out and what didn't, but I wrote the second question. I said, how is it that American blacks know what needs to be done to be free, capital Free, but when it comes time for it to come to full fruition, they pull back like Ellis Haizlip from the show Soul. And what I'm referencing is, when you watch the documentary, once Nixon got in office and he got involved, they started messing with PBS, talking about they were going to pull funding, and they've been doing that ever since Nixon. So not only did Nixon introduce benign neglect for black people, which we have been in no matter what party it is in office, but he also introduced messing with public broadcast system, PBS, all right? NPR. They started stripping them of their funding. Now, when it came down to refunding Soul, because he had all types of people on there. He had revolutionaries on there. He had Stevie Wonder. We're going to go through the list, right? We're going to go through the list when we get to that point. But, so I asked that question. Now, they got to a part where they were doing this kumbaya, and she said she had never seen racism in Seattle. Honestly, she could say there's no racism in Seattle. Okay, fine. I'm just showing you one way already. So when it got to the question, so the people, they were on a kumbaya thing because obviously they know that these people who are hosting the show, who were moderating, must have the money to fund their upward mobility. But the problem is, it is the problem, people. If you cannot talk the same, like how we talk on this show, if you cannot talk the issues of American black people around the black people that you around that say that they are out to assist you, then they are racist. If they will pull back on their funding because they can't hear what you're saying because they are engrossed in their Caucasianness, that is silent bigotry. That is silent racism. So when it got to my question, because the white woman had just done prayer hands because they had just finished doing a kumbaya. So they said, I guess we will stop right there. And now my questions open up people. You know, they open up people and open up. But I could tell that it's one thing what you put down on paper as a poet or a musician or a singer, etc., etc. But when it's time for the rubber to hit the road and you can't talk the same language outside of the poetic or the song or the musicianship, you are still under a false sense of security where racism is involved. If you feel that you cannot talk the same way or be able to talk the issues that matter to American black people from the standpoint in which that we talk it here on this show, the people that you are around that are Caucasian are about feeling good and saying they're not racist, but once you cross them, they cut the funding like they did with Soul. They somehow cut the funding on Soul, and what was a program that went around the nation coming from out of New York and went around the nation on PBS, where true black intellect as well as entertainment and poetry, spoken word, and exchange of ideas were actually being put across that early, from 1969 to 1973. Once they said it's too black, and they cut the funding, though they had promised the funding. So Ellis Haizlip just pulled back and said, I'm not going to get into the street politics with this. I'm just going to pull back. If they cannot see the importance of it, it will still go on and be remembered. Well, guess what? It wasn't remembered until this documentary came out. It wasn't remembered until the documentary came out. It wasn't remembered until this documentary came out. 3, 4, 5 decades later. Now, sad, right? With the laughing emotion, with tears. Now look, she says she can't see racism in Seattle. If, like in Cleveland, there is an area where black people stay, but white folks are out in the burbs and what is called the urban sprawl, where you see ducks still walking their natural path, but there's no forest or meadow anymore because they have urban sprawl, and the weather reports in the morning only talk about the commute in for those who live far out, and don't talk about the inner city where black people are. If Seattle is somewhat like that, that is silent bigotry. That is racism. If to get a good job as an American black person, you have to do that same travel out an hour and 45 minutes because they've taken all the good jobs and taken them out far, but they don't have the workers because a lot of white folks are suffering from suicidal thought processes, and they're on that methamphetamine, on other types of drugs to kill their lack of importance, to kill in them their lack of importance and give them somewhat of a euphoria high while killing them, right? So they have to hire. If you have to travel way out into no man's land, and then when you're traveling back, you get stopped by the cops every single day because there are no good jobs in the city, and your people before you, your grandparents, your aunts, your uncles, your brothers, your sisters who are older than you did not get up there and complain and say that we need those jobs, those factory jobs and those businesses to have a satellite in the inner city and in the black suburbs for us to work, so we don't have to burn gas an hour and 45 minutes because we're not going out there on a leisure like Caucasians do on the weekend to come watch the ball games. That is silent bigotry. That is silent racism. And for there to be a black mayor in Cleveland, Ohio, or for there to be so-called liberal mayors in these various different cities in the upper West Coast, and these situations are still going on, that means that is silent bigotry, and that is racism, and that is the battle for American blacks going into this 21st century, to pull what was taken away because of white flight and brought back in. If Seattle is anything like what I described in other cities, Cleveland, Ohio, etc., that is silent bigotry, that is silent racism. If you move into a predominantly white neighborhood, don't feel bad when the for sale signs start going up because you move in. You keep your lawn immaculate. You say, good morning, neighbors. You even put on that nasal voice and to get over, good morning, neighbors. How you? That only works over the telephone. Sorry. Well, it really doesn't work on the telephone these days. Right? It only works over the telephone, right? So we're just telling you, it only works over the telephone, right? It doesn't work, it just doesn't work any other time. But So you're there and you say, good morning, neighbor. You keep your lawn immaculate. You keep it edged up. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad when they start to move, because that is a ticky boom in them. That is silent bigotry. And as they leave, somehow the tax money leaves. You're paying your taxes. The people who are moving in, who look like you, because they start to either rent or they start to sell their houses to people who look like you. Don't look at those people and say, oh, because they moved in down the street, that's the reason why the people are moving out. Don't feel because you will call the police and say, I'm going to have some company over. I'm going to have some company over, and we're going to have a little music. And you tell your neighbor on the side of you, your white neighbor on the left side of you, and your white neighbor on the right side of you, that we're going to have some company over. And you still see those for sale signs. Don't feel like it has anything to do with you. Well, it does have to do with you, because Caucasians have some ticky boom where they don't want to be around black people. Don't feel bad. That is silent bigotry. That is silent racism. If that is happening in Seattle, if there is a divide, and there is the other side of the tracks, so to speak, that is silent bigotry, that is silent racism, and that is the battle of American blacks to bring those jobs back, so we don't have to travel out an hour and 45 minutes just to get a good factory job, or a good telemarketing job, or a good job where we have to risk being stopped by the North Royalton police, the Strongsville police, the whatever East Lake police, the West Lake police, etc. Whatever you call them in your city. What are you doing over here this time of night? Only type of people who will be over here this time of night that are Negroid would be ones that are up to bad situation. That is silent bigotry. That is silent racism. And we as a group of people should not have to go through that. Now, if you start to see your neighborhood change, and it starts to turn black, and then you start to hear people playing music louder, and you start to see the rest of the Caucasians putting their for sale signs up, it's not because they're playing their loud music. They were planning on finding their escape, because one Negro in a neighborhood that's predominantly white is like seeing 100 niggas, and it's time to put the for sale signs up. So it wasn't because of those people moving in that they're renting to or that they sold to. They're doing what they do because it was initially you, and they said, oh no, the Negroes are coming, to be kind on the word. That is silent bigotry. That is silent racism. How is it that the youth are not taught that by the generations before? You feel that you're living with the whites and everything is all right. But it's not all right, because they look at you. Now, here's an example. Here's an example of what we're talking about, right? Now, you feel that you are a home health aide and you have a great job. You have a great job. You feel that you are a home health aide. You have a great job. And watch this. Now, what would you do? What would you do? Let's see. Now, let's pause that for a minute. Was that wind, or was she blowing on her in the middle of COVID? Because I know what happens at the end, Tanya. Was that like setting up what she was getting ready to do? She was blowing wind first, right? Ain't that what she was doing? Okay, I don't hear you at all. Your mic's not coming through. I know.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Go ahead. Was that blowing wind?
I thought it was what it was from the beginning, or maybe I just traumatized at the thought of.
Okay, so let's continue on here. So for me, it looked like she just went first, right? She just went. But you know, once people see they can get away with things escalate. Now this is what you happen. You had to travel way out to do this job. You're in no man's land for black folks, and you are doing this job as a home health aide. Let's continue on. Now, the black woman's heart is pumping. You can see this because, you know, if anybody else had done that, if that had been a nigga, she would have just been doing, no matter what age. What? If that had been a chick that same age on the street and she was a nigga, something like that, that's self-hate. But for some reason, we are programmed to be docile and dormant towards this, right? You know that you're going to lose your job. You know that you're going to lose your job. Let's continue on. Okay, she blows again. Now, these two are blows. And I was looking at this. I was like, okay, first of all, I would have told the woman, look, you need to stop blowing at me. We in the middle of COVID, you old racist. I'll be kind. Okay, here we go. Now, those are her dentures in her hand, right? She's threatening to throw her uppers at the woman, right? She's threatening to throw uppers. And then she asks her, do you want more? Would you like more? Let's continue. You want more. You want more. You can't make this up. This is what's happening. You can't make this up. Let's continue. Now she puts her teeth in. Now at this point, when the black woman who was the home health aide started rubbing her shirt, I realized that the woman had been spitting on her, not just going. She was bringing up honkers and going. So when I saw that, I said, whoa, watch this. Now you see the woman moving around her cheekbones because she's getting ready to get a big one. And she's going like this. And if you watch it close, she's like, oh, she's getting a big one together. Here we go. Oh! She spat in her face. She spat in her face. She spat in her face. Now, at this point, you ask yourself, what would you do? I know it's hard. I know people, one person dropped off because it's hard. It's hard to watch. Because maybe they are in this particular situation. And I saw one person drop off of YouTube, right? They see themselves in this situation. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the extreme of the silent bigotry, silent racism that has not been nipped in the bud. This having to work for Caucasians, because those being the angel, the healthcare angel, I think there's an ad, like, right? And they say, yes, being a healthcare angel helps the old folks. Nah, it don't help them not to be bigots and racists and white supremacists. The hate breeds in the Caucasian woman. Always remember that. If it be the situation with Emmett Till all the way up to this, it breeds in the Caucasian woman. Let's continue on, right? Is the assault over? Let's see. Yeah, she made her point. She spat so much that it spat on her face, spat on her arms, spat on her clothes, spat on her neck. The spittle went down her shirt. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you can look at your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your older brothers and sisters, if they're like 15 years older than you, and you can lay this directly in their lap. Why you have to travel out and be subject to this is because they did not take care of the silent bigotry, the silent racism. They didn't take care of it. And the same people who voted Biden, the same man who assisted in Generation X being stripped, put into prison, all of the pathologies that you see happening today all come from that. And these same people, your grandparents, your parents, your aunts, your uncles, your cousins that are older than you, your brothers and sisters if they're older than you, went and voted for the man who destroyed Generation X. And they never thought to address the silent bigotry and the silent racism. And this is what people are subject to today. Oh, we get into it early today, okay? You see, this is what people are subject to today. People are working at jobs and they are working in places that are far out in the white areas, and the whites are coming in and acting rude and disrespectful to them, and they don't have the language to talk to get them up off of them. Because the generations who did not take part in the civil rights action, it was only 10 people in the civil rights movement that actually moved. Everybody else was enticed to be there to build numbers because they said afterwards you'll be fed. That's the truth. Too much partying, thinking that you're sitting there with the whites. You can see it in every neighborhood. You move into any neighborhood. It's not because the niggas moved up the street that was playing the music and drinking the 40 ounces. It's because you were the first one in the neighborhood. And they were finding their way out. And they were looking for the realtors that could take them into the urban sprawl because there's a ticky boom there. So if in Seattle this is happening, that is silent bigotry and silent racism. And I know that it's happening in Seattle because of the fact that the overseers were overseeing American Black History Month Q&A about the film Mr. Soul. By the way, Mr. Soul debuts February 22nd, 2021 on PBS. February 22nd, 2021, Mr. Soul debuts. But you know what's funny? If you go to Amazon Prime, you can watch all of the episodes of Soul by going and searching Soul, right? Search Mr. Soul, and all of the episodes of the Soul program comes up. What the youth need, because the grandparents and the parents and the aunts and the uncles and the brothers that are a little older than you and the cousins that are a little older than you didn't get the language. You need to watch these programs to catch up, because we are on a hamster wheel and we have to get the fuck off the hamster wheel. So that means that you have to catch up on the thought that your generations before you did not give you. You have to catch up and know this language and be able to kick this language, because the same thing that's happening to you right now is the same thing that was happening to generations before you, because they did not handle the business. And it has to be these younger generations that handle this. Starting from Generation X, Gen X talking now. From Gen X all the way down, put the partying aside, put the gutterism aside, put the wanting to get along and be along with Caucasians, put the drugging and the alcoholing aside, and deal with getting the redistribution of funds, or you don't get votes. Get the redistribution of funds, or you will have no cooperation from American black people whatsoever. Why do you hear it in the music and the poetry, but when it comes time for it to come to full fruition, American blacks seem to pull back like Ellis Haizlip did when it came to his show being on the line, because he had writers in his organization that were willing and ready to ride. Tracy Latrice says, this looks like some type of nursing home. That was horrible. You know, my father worked for nursing facilities because he was the director of dietary. He put together their meal plans that extended life, right? One time, I'm 13 years old, junior high school, right? This was an all-white facility, far out now. You had to go far out to be placed in these great jobs. So I'm walking down the hallway. So I stop and I'm talking, because there's a younger Caucasian kid my age, and his mother works there as a head nurse or something. So she's like giving me the tour, or my father does what he has to do in the office. So she's giving me the tour, and she has her Sunday because it's family day. And so we hit it off, and we were talking. And so we go through and we stop. Now there's white folks out in the hallway, but in particular we stop at this door, and there's a Caucasian woman in a wheelchair. Now, she looks like she had a stroke. She can't talk. She can't do whatever. Now, me, I'm oblivious to it because I was in a cocoon because I went through all black school till I got to high school. But once I got to high school, and like I told you, we were taught high self-esteem by the teachers I had before. When I got to high school, and I said, these Caucasians are acting kind of obey, and there's a problem. That's when it kicked in, and I started doing my research, right? But I had a high self-esteem, and I wasn't going along with the BS. But so I'm sitting there, I'm 13 years old, I'm standing there, and the woman is in there. She can't talk, and she gets like upset. She can barely move in her chair. She's like, and they have to wheel her in the room, right? Not until later, a little later, I realized, I said, this woman was one of those. Oh, they're starting to clip. But I got it early, you bitches. Now look, I got it early, you bitches. Switched it around on your hoe asses. That's right. Clip now. We got everything we needed out to the people. Ain't nothing but a thing, you hoes. But anyway, look. Let me compose myself. I didn't realize until later that this was one of the people who were one of the Caucasian women who hate breeds through the woman. The same type of woman who calls and says, I will call the police on you if you don't go along with me, even though you are a black man that I am dating or I'm married to. I will call the police and you will be lynched right in front of me. I will put you in your place. Or she was the same kind that got Emmett Till lynched on a fan wheel floating down the Mississippi River with a gunshot in his head, bloated, looking nothing like himself in the casket when his mother said, enough is enough, I'm going to open the casket in 1950. I'm not going to cover up what these Caucasians are doing anymore. Maybe it's like that, lying that he whistled to her in the store. Because she didn't want to work in the store because she thought she had looks and she wanted to be an actress, but she was under a white man that had her under control. Oh, white men, zaddies are good. They don't have you under control. Ask the black girl that got beat by the football player. They're under control. Or they don't keep people under control. So, she took her in the room, but had she been able to speak, she would have said, that nigger tried to touch me, and then I would have been like, what? No, I didn't touch you. I would have been innocent. I wouldn't have known nothing. But if I would have had the language, I would have said, oh, you just one of them old bitches from way back in the day that was lynching niggas. We understand, and that's what it is. And so she was so upset, and fear took over because of what had been she had seen done to people probably down in the South that looked like young me at 13 years old. This is the silent bigotry and the silent racism that was not taken care of. And every time you have to be put into a situation, you can thank your mother. You can thank your father. You can thank your grandparents. You can thank your aunts, uncles. You can thank your older brothers and your older cousins because they were more about partying. We've arrived. Then they were really putting on blackface, smiling. We arrived. Let's go take these drugs. Let's drink. Let's party. Instead of being about securing it for the next generation. So the next generation, starting with Generation X on over, have to pick up and learn what is missing in your vocabulary, in your knowledge bank. The soul programs that are on Prime will help you with that. The films that we talked about on just this past hashtag TFR Podcast Live, where we connected the dots from 1920 to 1970. Many people are doing Black History Month programming, but they're not putting together the dots. They're not showing you how all of this connects together from 1920, how the music and the entertainment all the way to 1970 had the code in it and was telling you about what's happening. This Sunday, we go from 1960s all the way up to today, right? From 1960s all the way up to today. You have to fill your knowledge bank because the generation before you, the generations before you let you down. And they let you down most explicitly just this last November 4th. You know why? You know why? You want to know why? Before I bring my sister in. You want to know why? You want to know why? Because they don't care about anybody but themselves. There is a selfish generation that grew up in the 70s. There's a selfish generation that grew up in the 70s. And it has to do with what they were ingesting. Oh, they say, oh, D. Why you got to say that? Nowadays, they're ingesting codeine and they're ingesting all that ecstasy. And they're just they only doing what you set the blueprint for. Not being responsible. There is a set group of people who are selfish. If your people are struggling to make it in the United States today, and you don't have the vocabulary, we're talking about the ones that grew up in the 70s and came of age in the 70s and the 80s. If you don't have the vocabulary to straighten it out, if you didn't know that Biden wasn't the person to vote for, you are selfish. We're sorry. And you can be angry all you want. You can try to penalize all you want, but that just shows your selfishness, which shows your demonic nature, because drugs and alcohol only bring out the spirits. The bright lights shine bright like Lucifer. You're partying, you're ingesting, it's bringing out the spirits. It's only showing the demons that are in you. Oh, we're getting deep right now. We're getting deep. For people to not care about the ones that come after them, you have a demon in you. For you to have voted for Biden, you have a demon in you. You voted for Lucifer to get rid of Satan, you thought, but you kept with the same demon because you like those demons, because you want to live around those demons. But those demons move out, and then you blame it on the black people up the street that had the 40 ounces of playing the loud music, because you would call and say, hey, hi, I'm such and such, and I'm going to have some people over, and we might have some loud music, and we may have some cars in the driveway, if you would understand that. And you talk to your neighbor on the left, and your neighbor on the right, your neighbor on the left, and then the neighbor on the left, right? They say, sure, buddy, no problem. They're putting their for sale signs up because they just have a problem. And it doesn't have to do with you. So you have to get over the psychosis of thinking it has to do with black people and saying black people do this. Everything that black people go through today in this society are Caucasians' fault. Martin Luther King tells you every single morning that we come on, he tells you every single morning what they did to take your wealth away. Every single morning. When will you wake up? When will you stop discouraging your children to be revolutionary in their thought? When are you going to stop? When are you going to stop discouraging your children? And when I say children, I mean your descendants, from being revolutionary. In the movie, in Judas and the Black Messiah, I got the actual quote now from Fred Hampton. He says, war is politics with bloodshed. War is politics with bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed. War is politics with bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed. They are both politics. How you determine how you're going to go about being free, the people determine. So far, black people have pulled back like Ellis Haizlip did as far as his show. We pulled back. We don't want to be free. This can be done with politics, but you got to get in the game. It can be done with politics without war, without bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed. You get into the political game and know how to play it and don't compromise. Quit being in coalition, because if you're in coalition, I'm going to say it again, if you're in coalition and the money and the funds have not been reallocated to be in equity for you, if you're in coalition, they're still going to be on a higher rung than you because your money was stripped from you purposefully. Huh? So you got to have the language to be able to talk it. And this has been talked since the 1920s. There's no excuse. There's no excuse in 2021. 1920, 101 years ago. This language was put together, culminated after being free in 1865, and being able to build economics, and then watching those economic centers be destroyed. The language developed in 1920 to let you know what was going on. So many people just want to get along. You are a failure if you are a failure. If your offspring wind up in prison, wind up drugged out, alcoholed out, etc., etc., you have failed. And that's on you. That's on you. And you can be as penitent, you can have and say, oh, I don't like him and I'm going to treat him a certain way. I'm saying, go ahead and do that. That just shows the demon in you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the way we're going to be, Stu says, scissors, 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 too late. I don't know exactly what that means, but, you know, that's a perspective. Now, people, introducing my co-host. Oh yeah, they came around to the usual time, right? Yeah, they're going around to the usual time. I do it. It's too late, bitches. I got you early. My special guest host, my sister Tanya M. Congress. What do you have to say about that?
Are you able to hear me? Because
Yes.
I realize they're doing something.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you.
I think that's what Stu was saying. Snip, 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 snip. Too late. Of them trying to come in and clip you. That's what I think he was addressing.
Okay.
Now, see, I know y'all don't like this. We come with things that are very hard to digest. But we're trying to unclog your spiritual bowels. Because you clogged up, you need an enema. You're clogged up, and we're here to help you with this. Now, we know you don't like it. I mean, sometimes you have to put things in certain ways in order to make them memorable. If us pissing you off will make you go research and make you think that we've done our job. We've done our job. I mean, you know, I post some controversial things on my timeline on Facebook, and, you know, I have people coming in there trying to draw me out and pick me out. Oh, I know what you're doing. You're baiting people. I never even answer them. Whatever you think I'm doing, I'm running this. You're not drawing me out. So we covered Dee covered a lot of things up until now. That video, I used to be a home health care aide for about 2 years. And I was a home health care aide in the home of a Jewish woman. They were the last in their family. One was 93 years old, and she was very sharp and very coherent. She was still taking care of things. She had been an accountant for a living, and she had managed her father's finances, who had been a businessman, her mother, her sister, who was dead, and her sister, who she was taking care of, that was 13 years younger than her. She had managed all of their money, and so they had amassed $383 million they were sitting on, because they didn't buy clothes, they didn't buy. She saved she saved the Miracle Whip jars. She had jars stored in the basement from 1970. She wore the other sister wore her dead husband's clothes. They didn't buy nothing, and similarly, in those type of environments, if they're not used to having been around a lot of black people, now the older lady, she was able to get along. She had been more out in the world or whatever, and had been. But the other one, they were very prejudiced. And so when they got around the black people, she started speaking in Yiddish. She started speaking in this other language. So the older sister would try to speak with her reason, and she said, "Swat stairs, Gaelak! Swat stairs, Gaelak!" So that meant shut up and go away. That's what that means. Schwarzfield, Gaelak. So, this was my first time in this type of environment as far as working, and that's what it wasn't my field. But I took the job because, it was offered to me at a time by a nurse that I knew we really need these people, and these ladies, they can pay. So we went. It was a couple of us went and took the job, and we went, and this woman, she tossed her walker at me one time. And I just looked at her. See, the rest of them, they had a need. Now, if you have a job, it's because you need a job. But I've always been the type of person that was in a position whether I was still at home with my parents or wherever, even if I wasn't at home with my parents, I wasn't taking no crap on no job from nobody, much less them. I wasn't doing that. I walked right out because my skill set was so tight that I could walk out and go right to a temp agency, sign my name on a line. By the time I got home, 10 minutes home, they calling me for a job. So I never had a problem obtaining employment, right? So it was never a thing for me. But I was like, if this woman throws this walker at me one more time, she's going to be wearing it, and then I'm going to walk out of here. I'm going to wrap this walker around her neck, and then I'm going to go out of here. But I didn't have to do that. It ended up on a good note. I'll tell that part of the story later. But I said that to come back to the fact that now I don't know what if that was an American black that was working in that environment that was taking that spit. All I know is spit is an inspiration for me. My first fight at 3 years old in nursery school is because somebody honked and spit on me. And that whole thing was so epic that a schoolmate of mine, who we're still friends today, she remembers. She was there. And when I tell the story, she'll be like, I remember that because I was taking up for another little girl. And that girl spit on me, and I knocked the heck out of her. Right down to the floor. I didn't know what spitting meant, but I know it was a nasty feeling to have somebody spit on you. So to be grown and adult and have this woman, and you can see she was inspired by hatred and what she thought was privilege, to spit on her, I'm going to tell you guys something. I am very much in control of my temperament. I'm very much cognizant of living a life that's of peace and not of war unless you call me to it. Now, that spitting, that is an automatic call to war. If you spit, no matter how much a guy I know, this is going to be one of those things where you're going to learn something else about me. It's going to be one of those things where we're going to knock you out, and then we'll deal with the rest later. That's what will happen.
Thank you.
So, fast forwarding into what it is that we're dealing with in the generations that went before us, leaving us in a predicament. See, I think that some of you are, delusional. Because some of the ways that I have people respond to some of my posts, they're like, well, you have some people, they want to do that kumbaya thing. And I'm very flabbergasted at my artistic counterpart, poets, musicians, and stuff like that, because I would have thought, with them being as insightful and attended to detail as they are through the art, that they would be more attentive to what it is that we're really going through, since we express ourselves through our art forms, and so that's really who we are. And so as Dee was talking about the show and talking about the kumbaya moments and stuff like that, it just dawned on me that whoever people are, I mean, we express ourselves through our art. So whoever people are, they're going to, their art is going to extend past that into an interview, into a show, into whatever it is. That's still an extension of your art. So whoever you are is eventually going to surface. So if you got two faces, one, it could be possible that one face comes out through the entertainment part of your art, and the other face comes out through the true expression of your art through conversation and through standing down in a time when you should be standing up. I don't know how to be any person but one person. I got one face for you, and that's the face that you're going to get at all times, whether it's through an interview, whether it's through the expression of my music or poetry or whatever. I can only give you who I absolutely am. Now, we got some schizophrenia going on here. We got some multiple personality disorder going on here. We got things that are unstable going on here. We have acute signs of mental illness going on here. Not only with artists, but with us as a people, there is so much division in the pie that there is no hope for total unity. And they already know that. That's why they play you like a fiddle. They play you like a fiddle. Now, you voted for Joe Biden. Now, here's what I get. Here's what I get. Well, he's only been president 2 weeks. I mean, gee, he's only been president for 2 weeks. I mean, God, can the man have a chance? He's already done more than the other one did for 4 years. Really? You did not research. It was clear you didn't do your research, and we did the research for you, so you didn't listen either. So you are amongst the ones that they can always count on when they're sitting in their roundtable discussions about how to manipulate a situation and how to keep a people incapacitated. You are among the ones that are counted as the ones they can count on to help move the sheep along forward in the direction they want it done. And at some point, see, what are y'all going to be saying at the end of this? You know, at the end of this, you're telling me to wait and see. I'm telling you to wait and see. We already called it. We called it before time. Everything that we called up until this point has already come to pass. So when it gets to the end of this, and we have waited to see, while we were entertaining the process, landmine and coal mine, we were entertaining the process, and so we waited to see. And when we get to the end of this thing, what excuse are you going to have? Because you're not giving. What excuse are you going to have? You're not giving any resistance. So you're not, and we're not either, because we're staying out the way. We chilling. We like this. You know, my dad and me and my brother, we have this thing that we do when we have our elbow up on the counter and we're just in thought. All of us just have this characteristic, but it came from my dad. We do this. So we're going to be looking like that. We staying out the way. We giving you our thoughts and opinions, our views are expressed here on observations, hashtag observations TFR, and we giving you our views, opinions, prophetic utterances, and we're just sitting back. So we're not giving no resistance. We're just telling y'all what it is. And then you're going to say, what you going to say at the end? I'm looking for this one. What you going to say?
All right, people. So look, in closing, before we get to the memes, because you know the memes are coming up right now. February 22nd, 2021, PBS, Mr. Soul, Ellis Haizlip, Mr. Soul, right? You're going to be so impressed with who you see that was involved in this programming. This Sunday, we're going to give the review. This Sunday, the 14th. I believe that Sunday is the 14th. Let me look at my calendar, yes, Valentine's Day. We come on this Sunday, the 14th, on Valentine's Day. So it's going to be really jam-packed because we're going to have Valentine's Day, Black History Month, and we're going to be reviewing this film, and we're going to be connecting the dots from 1969 to today, right? Films that you should watch to connect the dots. I know a lot of people are bringing Black History Month programming, but they're not connecting the dots because they're not extrapolating out and looking at time. They're at time continuum. They're only looking at what they are doing now within their short time, which would be 70 score and 5, and anything after that will be a blessing. But they're only looking at their time, and that's why people remain on the hamster wheel, because they don't look back further and say, we've been doing the same thing. So we need to take what worked, drop off what didn't work, and I can tell you, being in a place where you say that there is no race, I can't see any racism in Seattle, but you got two people being the moderators, basically being the overseers of what you can see and what questions you can answer. Well, that's silent bigotry. That's silent racism. Your people failed you if they didn't tell you that. They failed you. But we here at hashtag Observations TFR, we don't fail you. We bring you what it is. It's what it is. All right, people. So now, let's get to some memes. Time for the memes. This has been brought to you by, of course, our mask. That's right. Take your QR code in your PayPal program. Scan this QR code. Also, you can find it on You Found the Spot on the You Found the Spot group page. Make sure that you join the group page. You can find it there and scan with your QR code from PayPal, and it takes you straight to the order form, and then make sure that you add your name and your shipping address, and it will get to you in 7 to 10 business days. We are on the fight to fight this virus. And then, of course, as they're clipping us now around this time, steadfasting. That's right, steadfasting. Take your regular QR code scanner on your smartphone. Scan this. It takes you to our fundraising page. There's only a few days left on this. If people do not purchase like they did last time, then everyone who did purchase, if it doesn't meet the line, then everybody who purchased gets their money back. But don't worry. We'll be back again with this shirt because it's a powerful shirt and the meaning of it is very powerful. So no worries about that. But use your regular QR code to scan and purchase this shirt. Okay, so let's get to the memes. That was shameless product placement and, plugging. All right. First of all, we have a solemn occasion. Once again, we come together with a solemn occasion. Mary Wilson, founding member of the Supremes, dies at 76. Mary Wilson, founding member of the Supremes, dies at 76. She lived out here in Las Vegas. And, she got around. She made her appearances. She was a trailblazer, a diva, and will be deeply missed. Motown Records founder Berry Gordy said, right? What can be said? Rest in heaven. Thank you for your contributions. Thank you for entertaining but 76 is pretty young. I mean, 76, the closer you get to it, the younger it gets, right? When you see people are living in their 80s and 90s, 76 is pretty young. So I have a question. The same question that I asked since we found out that Hank Aaron took the experimental agent on January 6th, and then 16 days later, on the 22nd, he was dead. Did she take the experimental virus? Excuse me, well, that's what happens. The virus actually releases. But did she take the experimental agent? Because we talked in nauseum last week about it not going through the third level of advocacy. You should go back and watch that show, which makes people the guinea pigs for this. Did she take the shot? We won't know for a while, we're sure, if we ever find out. We're still trying to find out that Cicely Tyson take the shot. Now, you know us here at the TFR franchises. Anything, the film review, anything within our scope, we bring facts about American blacks. Facts about American blacks. Here's one that I saw, a good meme. You know, a lot of people, since my wife and I last Black History Month, and in August we did historical American Black historical black figures, black foremothers who made it happen, who put us closer to taking our rightful place. Since we released that back in August of 2020, now I see many of the people that we talked about spotlighted in memes. Well, we talked about that nearly almost a year ago. You might as well say this is February, summer is over, so nearly a year ago, okay? This one, however, is not one that we talked about. Christina M. Jenkins. Christina M. Jenkins, inventor of the sew-in weave in 1951. Christina M. Jenkins, inventor of the sew-in weave in 1951. Now, you might have thought that Caucasian women had come up with it, and a lot of men who are into women wearing natural hair. My sister's wearing natural hair right now. Is that a little bit too far off the track of natural hair that you're really speaking of? But fuck you if it is. But anyway, look. Look. A lot of black men, a few black men, not a lot, it's a few, you know, minority, moral or a immoral minority can seem like they're the majority. Just look at white folks. But anyway, look. There are a few that say, hey, quit being like white women, quit doing that, quit sewing in that hair because it... Correction. If you read a book, I forget the name of the book, but it's about Black Hollywood. If you read about Hollywood, many of the hairdressers, and Turner Classic Movies has confirmed this since the book came out, because they had those little vignettes where they show you people. Many of the hairdressers, the majority of the hairdressers that were designing those hairstyles that you see on Betty Davis and on Lauren Bacall and on all these other white actresses were black women, black beauticians. They were black women, black beauticians. All of those hairstyles are black hairstyles. All of them. All of them. Time to wake up and see. Black History Month is more than just 28 days. 29 days if it's a leap year in February. It's 365 days of the year. Every modern convenience was made by black people. What did white people actually make? They stole it all. Ain't that right? When you research, you say, well, what did you actually make? You took it over and mass produced it, but you really didn't do anything. And that's why they're on methamphetamine and all these other things, and there's high rates of suicide. Because the more that history is corrected, the more they find they really didn't do anything to advance civilizations. The civilization was already advanced, and they just took the ideas they could conceptualize in their limited brains and discarded the rest. Human decency, they discarded that. Being fair to man, they discarded that. They put it in paper form, but they really just discarded it, right? So Christina M. Jenkins, inventor of the sew and weave in 1951. So when you see these white women walking down the street with these sew and weaves, black women did that. And you're yelling at black women, telling them to wear their natural when they're protecting their natural under the weave. You say don't do that, but black women invented it because she was probably Afrocentric and realized that in Egypt, black women colored their hair, straightened their hair, had hair dresses, crowns, which would equate to the hair weave in 1951 all the way up to 2021. You are limited in your knowledge and you should shut up until you get some. You are limited in your knowledge, but I want to know when you're going back to Africa, because when you're going back, because when you go back, you're going to run into the Chinese and you're going to run into the people who are drilling that oil, and unless you got money to stop the hooking over there, they're going to look at you and say, that brother, sister is cool, but how come when the black man comes over, he has no money, but when the European man comes over, he's able to pay me more than my father gets in a month's work for one night of debauchery? Come on, man. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. Wake up. You are limited in your scope of knowledge. All right. They brought it back because I sent a signal out. Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya. Kumbaya, my Lord. When they heard me go, Kumbaya. Kumbaya. Let me put on that white face and be praise dancer. Kumbaya, my Lord. Kumbaya, oh Lord. Kumbaya. You're limited in your knowledge, and you need to get it together because you only studied one thing. And you have to have knowledge in multiple things. You have to have peace, knowledge, and understanding in multiple disciplines, multiple things. You have to be able to know what came before you to know if you're making mistakes now. And if you never look that far, if you're that dense never to look back, You're a sucker. Sending people to hell with you. Next inventor.
You know what?
Go ahead.
You know, and speaking of that, you have to have, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for any and everything. And you have to have it within you where you walk into things in places. Okay, so maybe you don't feel like you have any influence to do things on a large scale. But how about let's start in your sphere of influence, where you're at, on your job, in your schools. I remember at which time my mom saw fit to take us out of public school, or take me out of public school at the time. And she put me in parochial school. It was a Lutheran school. And in there was a few specks of pepper in the salt shaker. You know what I'm saying? It was in Garfield Heights. It was predominantly white school. And there was a few other black kids there. And most of them had been in that particular, this school went from kindergarten to 8th grade. So most of them, the black kids that were there, they had been there since the beginning. They had been there from kindergarten. So I remember, now I'm coming in from the public school system, not, we're intelligent. We came from a good public school system, but I'm coming in, and it never dawned on me, like I walked in and I seen that it was predominantly white, which was a different environment for me, but it never, I never felt any kind of inferiority complexes or anything, because I'm figuring I'm walking up in here, hey, and this is me, I'm walking in. So I'm sitting there, and there was a young lady there, she had been there from the beginning, and she wound up becoming one of my better friends to date. And so she was there, and so she got up to go sharpen her pencil. And she came back to sit down, and she couldn't even sit down good before they said, let's say her name was Tina. Tina, can you sharpen my pencil? So she got up to go sharpen their pencil. And she came and gave them their pencil. She went to sit down. Tina, can you throw away my paper? So now my thermometer is already on the climb, right? It's already on the I didn't know, as a young person, I didn't know the things, I didn't know what my triggers were. I learned as I went along, right? So my thermometer is on the climb, and I'm sitting right behind this young lady. And she gets up and she goes and throws their paper away. So the third time, Tina, I forgot I could have had you sharpen my pencil. Tina went to get up. I'll never forget. She went to get up. I put my hand on her shoulder. I said, don't you move. I said, don't you move. I said, Tina is done sharpening pencils and throwing away pieces of paper. Now, if she happens to be getting up to do that and she feels like taking yours to do it, then fine. But from this day, she's not going to be making any special trips to the pencil sharpener or the trash basket when you got 2 legs to get up and do it yourself. Well, she didn't mind. She doesn't mind. I said, I mind. It's a new day. I mind. And I'm saying she is not getting up again to do anything like that. So I've shared that story to say, I've been that way all my life. And you got to be in a position, in a mindset in your life, and when you see injustices going forth about your people, that you stand up and you say something. But you gonna just sit there? I don't know how to just sit there. I don't know how to just stand there and watch ridiculous stuff go on and try to assist. How are you trying to assimilate and kumbaya with the people who are offending you, who are trying to belittle you? How are you doing that? I don't know how to do that. My thermometer goes too high. My mercury is bursting through the top within 60 seconds. I mean, how are you doing that? So I said that to say, in this climate, it doesn't mean you got to get into an all-full frontal war, but if it takes that to get the point across, I am not willing to go another 57 years and still see things like they are. I mean, what are you going to do about it? Each one has an influence wherever your influence is. School, job, wherever. Make a difference where you're at until it spreads like wildfire that, hey, we better start doing the right things where these people are concerned. But if nobody says anything, if you don't kick up dust, if it don't cost them any money, if it doesn't hit them in their pocket, if you give your vote for free and it doesn't cost anything, you'll never see anything.
War is politics with bloodshed. Politics is war without bloodshed. The people just have to decide which one they're going to use to be free. Now, this next meme, this is the NASA physicist who invented 3D movies. Her name is Valerie Thomas. Right? Her name is Valerie Thomas. She is one... Oh, okay. I'll bring it back up. She is one of the ones... She is one of... You're back on. She is one of the women that we talked about in American Black Historical Figures. In this case, she's American Black figure because she has not passed on yet, right? So she is, but just say that American Black foremothers that made things happen. Remember when we tell you about the woman who created the technology so that your phones are a touch tone? We talked about her at the same time that we talked about Valerie Thomas. All you have to go back and do is watch those shows that came out nearly a year ago, right? So we want to say what's up to her. She was rocking that afro. That afro was just popping. That afro was hitting, right? See, people, look at her now and look at her back then. We all have to get to that point one day. And what do you say to a group of people when you get to that age and you say to the next generations that you really didn't do anything to secure their future? You see, when Tanya tells that story about Tina, that is that invisible bigotry, that invisible racism that exists because Tina's parents didn't tell her about racism or said, just get along to get along. That's wrong advice. That's wrong. All the way wrong. We didn't have these people come up with all these different inventions to get along, just to get along. When we came up with everything that's entertainment, everything that's comfort, everything that's futuristic, we did that. And they didn't have us in movies about being in outer space until Star Trek, and then even then they still didn't. Let's move on to the next meme. Everyone has had one of these. I'm sure everyone has had one of these. Let me bring it up closer so that you can see it. You see this? You see this?
The person who did the meme said, I remember this toy. If you're old enough to have enjoyed this toy as a child, then it's time you meet its inventor. Let me bring it back some so that you can see it. Charles Harrison, a black man. If you're old enough to have enjoyed this toy as a child, then it's time you meet its inventor, Charles Harrison, a black man. Now, what I've noticed is the most successful things that make it with everyone, black, the person who invents it doesn't say that they're black. Wanna know why? Because black people, the same black people who don't teach their offspring anything about how to fight this silent bigotry and silent racism, are the same ones that will look at that and say, it's black, that, and they're the same ones who believe that because of the people up the street that came playing the music and the 40 ounces, and not you, because you moved in first and they were finding their way to urban sprawl when you first moved in because it's a ticky boom in them. Same ones who believe that it has to do with the person up the street have a self-hate against their own kind, brought about by the punishing treatment that is put down by Caucasian people on you, that silent bigotry and silent racism. Okay, here's one that is very close to my heart because I come from Cleveland, Ohio. Can you even imagine a world without traffic lights? We have Cleveland inventor Garrett Morgan to thank for this groundbreaking creation. Garrett Morgan, inventor and businessman who came to Cleveland in his 20s, most notable for inventing the 3-light traffic light. Now, you know that it is a red, black, and green thing with reference to the sun because the original traffic light that was down on Euclid Avenue, because Euclid Avenue was Millionaires Row. And out of all the cities, not New York, not any other place, Millionaires Row, they had cars, man. Cleveland, Ohio. They had cars. And they needed a traffic light for the square. You know that it's a red, black, and green thing with the reference for the sun because the original traffic light was encased in a black case. The stoplight is red, the yield is yellow, and the go light is green. What is that? That's red, black, and green. Black for the richness of the skin, red for the blood that was shed, yellow for the sun that enriches the skin, and green for the land from which we come from. It's not where you're from, it's where you're at. So where you are at is your Africa. You gotta catch up. You don't know this. This is 1920s. You don't know this. You need to catch up, you uneducated blacks that are on one thing. You don't know. Wherever the land is, wherever you are, you create, you make, that is your Africa. Most notable for inventing the 3-light traffic light in 1923, sold it to General Electric for $40,000 the same year. Also created an early version of a gas mask which protected the wearer from gas and aluminum inhalation, founded the Cleveland Call newspaper in 1920. And I don't know if that turned into the Call and Post, but he formed the Cleveland Call newspaper in 1920. He's also credited with the open heart surgery, the first open heart surgery. I don't know why they didn't put that up there. So Cleveland native has brought creation. Now, here's something that was interesting. This is that silent bigotry, silent racism that has to be nipped in the bud. Let's see what Tracy Latrice said. She said, Bright Boulevards, Bold Dreams, The Story of Black Hollywood. Really good book. Author is Donald Bogle. Let's see. That teacher allowed the students to abuse Tina. That teacher was nothing.
Yes, her afro was beautiful. Black history facts. That's right. So look, this next one is strange because everyone knows that her, who has a song at the end of the Judas and the Black Messiah movie, is black and Filipino. And usually when you have one drop of black blood, you are a Negro. But however, they say, her makes history as the first Filipina American to get a Golden Globe nod for Best Original Song, Motion Picture. That is that silent bigotry, divide and conquer. Let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Speaking of the Super Bowl, we talked about it. Patrick Mahomes' fiance, Brittany Matthews, called ESPN trash for tweeting a photo of him looking dejected during his Super Bowl loss. Don't get the wife, the future fiance, the girlfriend, the wife who really cares for her man started. There will be hell to pay. All right. Here's one about the Super Bowl, another one about the Super Bowl. It's an all-week conversation after the Super Bowl. The person who sent this meme in said, yep, that halftime show. That's right. So good that when Justin Timberlake was in Minneapolis for that Super Bowl, he used a hologram of Prince, and Prince said he didn't want to be placed in hologram form because it was demonic. And Justin Timberlake did that, and he was booed, and his career has not recovered since. He got off on Janet Jackson exposing her breasts, but the people in Minneapolis said, "Oh no, we told you," and they were booing him during his performance. And his subsequent albums have failed. The Man in the Woods failed. He went back to acting. Anyway, speaking of Tom Brady and talking about who the GOAT is, let's bring this up. This is Bill Russell. 11 rings, hashtag the GOAT. Next subject. You have to get 11 rings in your prospective sport before you even consider. You may be good. You may have gotten up there. You may be up there to go to dinner with those that are great. But until you get 11 or surpass 11, you are not the GOAT. Bill Russell. Let's keep moving. Here we go. Now, speaking of overtaking a baseball record, this is the note that Hank Aaron was still trying to figure out. Are they going to come out and give the cause of death on him? It's funny that he just happened to take the shot and did 16. But anyway, this is the actual note that he received from a Klansman telling him that it would be best for him not to beat Babe Ruth's home run record. This is the actual note. It reads, "Dear Mr. Nigger, I hope you don't break the Babe's record. How do I tell my kids that a nigger did it? But it took more at bats, live ball, and other nigger tricks. I wish you the worst at anything you do, quote unquote, nigger, exclamation point, KKK forever." Letter to Hank Aaron before he broke Babe Ruth's home run record. This is that silent bigotry, that silent racism that should have been put on Front Street. But the media was not going to cover it because they really didn't want to see
him beat Babe Ruth's record either. Now, the younger generation of whites, see, what happens is the younger generation of whites are liberal. Then when they get older, they turn conservative. And they look down on the next generation of blacks doing their thing. You see how that is? And the blacks who are trying to be like the whites do the same. Let's keep moving. The person who sent this meme in says, this person is from Generation X. I know this person personally from junior high school, and they say, get the injection. This is what they say. Get the injection. They don't need to microchip you. You're literally holding a tracking device right now. They're talking about your smartphone, right? But they said, get the injection. There's no telling. Every generation has them. Those that don't do research. And I'm going to leave that right there. Leave that right there. Now, people. Here's one from Ice Cube. Here's one from Ice Cube. And I went and researched and watched the video. Then I went over to the website. Yes, sirree, Bob. What does it say?
Everyone is joining Ice Cube on the new Black People social network, and they're joining by the millions. Hashtag represent. YouTube video. Ice Cube connects to the official Black People social network, and the name of that social network is WeGotUps.com. WeGotUps.com.
WeGotUps.com. Black owned, black operated. And I know some of you will say, oh, it's black owned, black operated. Oh my God. Maybe they should have just kept it secret and Cube should have just said, I like it. It's better than the oppressors, right? Last meme that gets us into what we're going to be talking about, because we have the avocado recipe to talk about, right? We have the avocado recipe to talk about, and then my sister has her recipe. Now, anti-cancer superfoods. Now, this meme came from my sister. She had reposted someone else's. Health is wealth. Anti-cancer superfoods, right? Sea buckthorn berries, cannabis oil, sour sop, right? Apricot seeds, mangosteen. I don't know what mangosteen is, but it looks interesting. Mani, goji berries, pomegranate, and acai berry. You know, the first time that I drank some acai berry drink, I was in my 20s, and it swole my feet. Maybe it was fighting some toxins that were in my body, and I didn't know. I stopped drinking it for a very long time, and then I came back to it, and then it didn't do it anymore, right? All right, people. So now, you know, this is Tasty Tuesdays, and we deal with recipes that will help you transition from out of eating meat, because meat carries coronavirus. Sorry. If you just research that, you will find that out, that meat carries coronavirus. So if you just change your diet just a little, you wouldn't have necessarily those problems, right? Now, so look, avocado. What? An avocado? That's right, an avocado. Now, this is real simple. Get your pen and pad out. It's a real simple situation. Now, when you go to the store, what you're looking for are avocados that are rich green to black on the outside. They're really good when the outer shell turns black and you can squeeze on it and it's soft, right? when you squeeze on it, when it's rich green to black and you squeeze on it and it's soft, it's ripe and ready. I question those avocados when you go to the store and they are rich green to black and you squeeze on them and they're hard. I question that. I wonder if they're Santos. But it's just me questioning. I don't know that for a fact, just questioning. But a real avocado, when it turns rich green to turning black, and it's really great when it turns black, it's soft, ready to go. You can make guacamole with it. But anyway, what you're looking for is the green to just starting black, and it's when you squeeze it, you can squeeze it. It's still firm but soft, right? Take it home with you. Break out your wok. Put in your grapeseed oil. Turn the eye. I use double eye for a big wok, but turn your eye on and turn it on to halfway. Let it begin to heat the pan. What you want to do is take a chopping block. Get your butcher knife. Cut the avocado around evenly so that you can crack it open and the nut or the seed is on one side of the avocado. You take the seed out of the one side of avocado and you discard it because it's really not good for you. It's actually poisonous now. Hey. But you discard it as poisonous. You take your butcher knife and you score around the shell of the inner part where the outer shell meets the green of the inner meat of the avocado, and you scale around it until you remove the meat. The meat of the avocado and put it in a dish. You do that to the second half of the avocado and you put it in a dish. Now, this avocado recipe will feed two. What you're looking for is some flat bread, or you can use rye bread, right? Either tastes is good. Flat bread, sprouted, or get real Jewish rye bread, right? What you're going to do now, the heat is warm enough. You're going to take your avocado, because you've taken the pit out, the seed, and you've discarded it, and each one has a dip, a hole. You're going to take your butcher knife and go on the side of the meat of the avocado, and you're going to cut it long ways and begin to drop each piece into the skillet, right? And it's going to, and then you do it to the second half of the avocado. Remember, this feeds two people, right? You cut along and you place the pieces in. Now, as they cook, you'll know it to your taste. You can have it crisp, or you can have it until it turns just a little golden brown, and you flip it over and let the other side do the same thing. It's really a quick process. It's not even 15 minutes, right? You should toast at the same time as you're putting the avocado in the grapeseed oil wok or pan. You should have your rye bread, 4 slices of rye bread, or two sprouted flatbreads in the oven being heated for about 5 minutes, right? You bring the bread out, or either the flatbread, and you cut the flatbread open and pull it back, right? You cut it neatly around the circle and pull it back to give it space for you to place the avocado in. Or you set up your rye bread and you place the avocado on one side of the rye bread, or you place it on the flatbread in spreading it around to fill in. Now, you go to Whole Foods. Now, this isn't the regular mayonnaise because it's not made out of what mayonnaise is usually made out of. It's made out of olive oil. It's olive oil mayonnaise, right? Tasty. Tastes just like the regular mayonnaise, right? You put the mayonnaise on the other side of the on the other rye bread, and you put it on top. You take your butcher knife and you cut down on an angle to make it gourmet. Or you spread the mayonnaise to your taste onto the avocado that is in the flatbread, and you close the flatbread over it, and you can cut it and make it gourmet again, and then it is ready to eat. And if one half doesn't already fill you up because it is protein, I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's just like you have been eating a sandwich that has meat. That is my vegan dish on Tasty Tuesdays. What? An avocado? What? And it is yummy. Oh, I forgot one thing. When you put the grease in, you take some garlic powder and you spread the garlic around. And the garlic with the grapeseed oil and the avocado, oh, such a taste. And if you're not filled, if you're not saying, well, I can wait until later to eat the other half or eat the other half tomorrow, if you're doing intermittent fasting, yeah, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it fills you up as if you had a meal with meat because it's protein and it's just so tasty. And I'd like to thank my wife because she came up with the idea to actually put the avocado in the pan, and she brought me some, and I tasted it and I said, this is good. And so then I just advanced on her recipe and made it into a sandwich instead of just cuts to have bites. I turned it into a sandwich. It's just tasty. You're gonna love it. What's going on, Tanya? What you got to say about, vegan recipes this week? Go ahead. Okay, let me turn you up. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. That recipe sounds absolutely delicious. I'm going to make it a point to try to get that in this week. That sounds like that's good. But I want to also add to something having to do with the avocado. The avocado seed is also very useful. It could be used as for tea. It can also be used for the skin. Now, you can dry the avocado seed in the oven and then grind it with a blender and mix it with banana and olive oil and make an exfoliant for your skin. So it sloughs off all the dead skin. So actually all the things God put in nature can be used inside out. So there's the part of the food that can be used inside for our ingestion, and then there's the part that can be used on our skin and things like that. And you could save quite a bit of money as well if you make a habit out of learning all the things that your food can be useful for. It's really pretty exciting. It's pretty, it's a lot to learn, and it's a lot to see how much money you can save. But my recipe for the day is macaroni and cheese, Southern vegan style. We know that, in our culture, we're used to Southern style cooking, which usually means there's a lot of seasoning going on, which means there's a lot of sodium going on. And so we have to learn how to balance those things out so we can, these recipes help us to not sacrifice good taste for health. You can have both. Just with some, they may be a little saltier, but you do those in moderation. So This particular dish has a 20-minute prep time. It has the cooking time is 30 to 35 minutes, and you'll need a 13 by 9-inch pan. Okay. So it's pretty simple. The ingredients, of course, is 1.5 cups uncooked small elbow macaroni, 2 tablespoons rounded earth balanced buttery spread. You can get that from Whole Foods. 10-ounce extra firm tofu and super firm if available. Now, for those of you who are sensitive to soy and things like that, you don't want to use the tofu. You can actually leave it out and it's not going to hinder anything. I will replace it with mushrooms. You can use mushrooms instead of that, okay? 2 cooked field roast burgers. That is a meatless brand burger that you can also get from Whole Foods, and some other stores sell field roast too. 1 cup unsweetened soy milk. Again, the soy products, you can use almond milk, the unsweetened almond milk, as a substitute for that, okay? 1.5 teaspoons spice. That is a non-salt seasoning. And you can get that. Giant Eagle sells that, and Whole Foods sells that. All right. 1 teaspoon pepper. And I'm sorry, Giant Eagle is probably, I don't know if it's in your area, D, but it's here.
No, that would be Smith's, Albertsons, stores like that.
Okay. 1 teaspoon pepper, 1/2 teaspoon sea salt. Preferably, if you're going to use the sea salt, get the pink Himalayan. But if you can't get the pink Himalayan, regular sea salt is okay. And so you're only using 1/2 teaspoon, 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. There are 2 brands that I know of. Red Star is 1 brand. I use Bragg's, the same Bragg's that makes the vinegar, the apple cider vinegar. I use Bragg's. So that's nutritional yeast. 1 tablespoon Energy egg replacer. You can get that from Whole Foods. 8-ounce Daiya mozzarella shreds, 1 package, Whole Foods again, and 12-ounce Daiya cheddar shreds, 1.5 packages, Whole Foods. So mostly everything that you need, you can get from Whole Foods. You will preheat the oven to 400 degrees. Cook the macaroni noodles according to the package instructions, usually 8 to 10 minutes. When done, rinse and drain the noodles and put in a large mixing bowl. Add the earth balanced buttery spread and toss until the noodles are coated and the earth balance is melted. Squeeze excess water from the tofu or the
mushrooms.
What did I say?
Mushrooms.
And then crumble it up with your hands, which if you've already cut it up, you don't have to crumble it, and toss it in with the noodles. In a separate bowl, small mixing bowl, mix the milk, spike, pepper, sea salt, nutritional yeast, and egg replacer. Stir until the ingredients are well mixed, and then add the noodles and mix thoroughly. Crumble and add the burgers if you're using them. Some people choose, now I had someone tell me that they went vegetarian, and so they don't even do the meat substitute stuff because they were coming away from meat. They don't want anything that even remotely resembled meat. So, I respect that. So she might opt not to use the meat crumbles. Mix 1 package of mozzarella and 1 package of cheddar Daiya shred with the noodles. Pour the noodle mixture into the baking pan. Cover the noodles with a 1/2 package of cheddar Daiya. Bake, cover with foil for 30 minutes, then broil on low for a few minutes until the top layer of the cheddar is slightly crispy. And once you get used to that, I'm going to post this on our You Found the Spot group page. And once you eat that, you'll always want your mac and cheese like that. You'll find out that a lot of these vegetarian dishes, here's something else. When we're used to this American diet that we have that makes us obese, and unhealthy, we'll say to ourselves, we'll say things like, well, it's expensive to make that. Isn't that diet cheese? That's $6.99 a pack. Wow, that's $6.99 a pack. And you're talking about I need 4 packs of it? That's expensive. But you're going to eat off of this for a couple of days, and it's going to be really filling. Once you cut those into squares in the pan, and they're solid, and you're only going to need like 1 square because it's going to account for your carb content. And then that other stuff is very filling, so you'll learn that about vegetarian food and vegetarian eating. You get full faster, and especially if you're intermittent fasting as well, you don't even need that much food. So you'll find yourself, you have to really gauge, because you'll find yourself throwing away a lot of food. That's what I find myself doing, throwing away a lot of food. So I'm still learning to gauge my intake, because I only have to put, I don't even have to put my trash out. It was every 2 weeks. Now it's every 3 weeks, because I'm not eating like that. So I'm not throwing things away like that, so I don't have a whole lot of garbage. So I only have to put my trash out every 3 weeks now. So just try it. You have to try it. Like, try making the switch. Try little by little. And the money that you're saying is a lot of money, but you learn how to save money in other ways with the same food. Like, say you buy skincare regimen. I don't want to name say you use a certain brand and you got all of the skincare regimen. Well, if you buy the oils like the jojoba oil and all that stuff, and you keep your avocado seed and you grind those up, you keep your banana peel and you grind that up and you use that on your skin, all of that will do the same thing that you're paying $175 for that skincare kit that you're getting from that company with the different colors. If you're getting from that company, it's doing the same thing with the things right in your home. All you have to do is schedule yourself to be able to put things aside and say, okay, I'm doing a dish with avocado today. I'll be baking those avocado seeds and grinding those up. And they're storable, so you don't have to use them right away. Grind them up, store them in a jar, and use it to exfoliate your skin. And that way you don't have to pay $50 a jar from the exfoliator from that company with the colors, and you save money. So that's my dish for the day and my tips for the day regarding the food. Try it. Let us know how it turns out when you try it.
All right. So people, this has been another jam-packed show of #Observations TFR. We come on 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. On the places that you see us, make sure that you subscribe, like, follow, share. Make sure you share. Make sure you share this to 5 of your friends, because we dropped some information. We dropped about invisible bigotry, invisible racism, something that Generation X and the subsequent generations have to nip in the bud for American blacks to begin to take their rightful place in the society. There's no other way to cut it, just the way it is. We brought you vegan recipes today, right? We talked about a movie, right? We talked about the movie called Mr. Soul, debuting February 22nd, 2021 on PBS. We told you about the WeGotUps.com. WeGotUps.com. Or is it WeGetUps? It's WeGotUps.com. Try either way. The past tense or present tense of get. It's one or the other, but WeGotUps.com, I believe that's what it is. That's Ice Cube. And we just disseminated information. It was a jam-packed show. We appreciate you coming in to watch us, right? We appreciate you. We appreciate you coming in to be with us every morning, Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We are proud to bring you this quality programming with the quality topics. Tomorrow is Stock Wednesday. Oh, Stock Wednesday. Did you get your stocks? What'd you say there? What'd you say real quick? What'd you say?
Oh, I was just going to say one more thing to the Facebook bots and the rapper. Checkmate.
That's right, because when it came down to it, that's how we know. That was my point. Thanks for bringing that up to me, Tanya. How we know that what we're saying is not just doo-doo is because other people are complaining about the same thing on other platforms. 1. 2, we switched the platform up on them, and when they got to doing it, they said, oh my, it was Kumbaya area, and we couldn't clip him because he had already made his point. What's the point? So high, you can't get over it. So low, you can't get under it. So wide, you can't get round it. Oh, we gon' get over, under it, around it. Da-da-ya. Shim. Shim. To dance our way out of our constrictions. Ow! We're tired of these suckers. Here's our chance to dance our way out of our constrictions. Moving in and out of hang-up alleyway. We should all be God. We should all be moved. Feet don't fail me now. Ha, ha. It's in the music. It's in the music. It's already told you how to get over it, under it, around it. As long as you're breathing, you got the chance to get over it, under it, around it. That's it, people. We will see you tomorrow with Stock Wednesday on #Observations TFR. We appreciate you, and we are proud to bring you this quality programming because all we do is disseminate information to make life better for me and you, your mama and your cousin too. Sitting on bowls, closing Cadillac doors.
Here's the thing about your movie, why I made a curator's pick of the Hollywood Fringe Festival. Community, heart,
Observations TFR, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday.